Anthem's patch 1.0.3 just released, and with it came a lot of changes that have me excited. Today we're going to revisit a melee-focused ranger build that received some serious buffs because of changes to melee damage scaling. If you want to know more about the patch notes and what the build contains, you can check the link in the description for the full video or pause the video and look at the components and gear on screen. Now let's get started. Alright folks, for today's testing we are doing a Grandmaster 2 contract. This is going to be very challenging, but I am excited to test out the full capabilities of this build and see exactly how far we can push a melee damage ranger. Alright, here we go. The first objective looks like we're going to have to scan this and probably defend the location. Yes, we are. That's going to make things a little bit tricky for us. We're going to have to push out if we want to really deal with the enemies because our build is focused on close range combat. So let's start getting it. Our melee hits are doing 30,000 damage when all of our buffs are cooking, and that feels pretty good. Certainly doesn't feel bad to deal that large amount of damage. Now, as soon as these Scar Hunters start flying around and acting the fool with their machine guns, we're gonna start running into problems because they're just gonna do a lot of damage. But if we can keep them under control with our frost abilities, our frost snipers. Ooh, see what I tell you. As soon as they go in the air, things are going to get tricky. As long as we can keep them crowd controlled or dead, we won't have too many problems. And that's one of the beautiful things about the frost effect, is that it allows you to keep these high priority, challenging enemies under control. Alright, so far so good. We're not struggling too much. Our melee is doing a nice chunk of damage every time we send it out, which is nice. It allows us to either chunk an enemy before we go in for a combo, or if we soften an enemy up, we can get the finishing blow on them to restore a little bit of our shields. Now we've got a Scar Enforcer. Let's freeze him up. Go around the back, get a nice crit, go in for the melee. We got a bunch of small Scar. We get a big area hit with our melee. The Ranger's melee does hit a group, so that's nice when enemies get bunched up like this. It's nowhere near what you get from a Colossus that's primed an enemy, but it's still something considering the Ranger does such a limited amount of area damage. Being able to apply that shock status to multiple enemies does feel pretty nice. Alright, another one goes down, another one comes up to take his place. We did finish the capture point part of the objective, so that is pretty nice. We can branch away from this current location, go in for some slams, get both of those guys shocked up. Alright, that was good. Alright, folks, as we move into the final stage of the contract, we're going to have to really put the build through its paces. We're fighting more Scars. This is going to be fun. I imagine there's going to be a lot of Hunters and Enforcers in this section. Now, though, we're just seeing a lot of destroyers going around, so we'll get our machine pistol buff throughout the freeze. Go in for the smash, get him primed up. Waiting for that cooldown just a little bit. Oh, we have two Scar Enforcers here. Why don't we use our ultimate to deal with them? Freeze them up again. Go for the Pulse Blast. Fly in for that melee, get them both shocked, and now the shock status is damaging both of them simultaneously. And then we just continue to slam. I completely missed a point-blank Pulse Blast there. That's not very good. Yeah, I like it. I like the damage output. It feels good. There's obviously ways to deal more damage with the Ranger, better ways to deal damage with the Ranger, but this is a fun alternative. If this is something that you want to try, if you enjoy slapping people with your big old stick, I mean, by God, you should do it. Besides the fact that it is a fun way to play the Ranger, the shock mace is also a valuable tool both for you as an individual Ranger, but also for your team because it is priming. So if you fly into a large group and slam down with your shock mace, and then your Colossus buddy follows up with a melee slam of his own, then that group is going to be dead. All right, so it opens up interesting synergies for a team. So if you're running with your shock mace dealing a big chunk of damage to enemies, the Colossus running double detonators, they're going to be able to detonate a hell of a lot of enemies as long as you're playing aggressively with that shock mace and going in and getting those primes. Got our ultimate again, so let's use it on this section. Clear out some of the scrappers. Some of them are going to survive, but that's okay. Throw that grenade. Missing one buff there. I forgot to shoot with the machine pistol before going for the melee. Whoa. Before going for the melee there. So I was missing a buff. That is the one thing that's a little bit tricky about this build, is keeping track of all 3 buffs at all times can be a bit much. But the more you get the hang of it, the easier stuff like that becomes. So apply the frost, shoot him in the butt for the combo, go for the big slam once we've got all 3 buffs running. Oof. The Scar Scrapper there, or the Destroyer, went a little bit Mr. President on us, and he saved the Enforcer from a combo that was going to kill him. Alright. That's a tough little cookie there. No! Oh, it's totally fine. It's totally fine. So look. I did wind up dying, but that's what happens when you play a Grandmaster 2 contract solo. They are very difficult, and it is what it is. But look, this build is very satisfying to play. It's very difficult to play, especially when you're going solo, but if you've got 3 other Javelins with you to help you manage the large groups, you can really hone in and focus down a single target with your melee, but also you're providing consistent priming for your team, and you're doing 30,000 damage a hit. So every 3 seconds, you're getting that big chunk of damage, and in between that, you're firing your machine pistol, you're freezing targets with your grenade, providing consistent crowd control on high priority targets, and with the pulse blast, you can knock Scar Hunters out of the sky, and with tip of the spear, you're providing yourself with healing. So this is a very durable way to play the Ranger. It's not super safe because you're getting in so close to the enemies, but if you keep moving, if you keep on your toes, bouncing around, and using your combos whenever they come up, you'll keep yourself topped off. Occasionally, you'll get a melee kill, which will restore a little bit of shielding. You got to pay attention to that as well because of the Vanguard emblem. And yeah, it's a really fun way to play the Ranger. Very satisfying, very difficult, but I enjoy it quite a bit. This is definitely a build that I plan on experimenting with more, seeing what other pieces I can collect to make it even better, make it more viable in the higher difficulties. I'm looking forward to pushing it as far as it can go. And there we go. That's going to do it for the build today. This was very exciting to revisit, and I'm looking forward to revisiting one of the Colossus builds that received some buffs because of patch 1.0.3, but also diving into some new builds. I've been collecting a lot of loot and experimenting with different things, and I'm excited to share all of it. So there's plenty more Anthem content coming. As always, the name of the game is Anthem. The name of the channel is iBluairJgR. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.